I've been a certified nursing assistant for 12 years. 12 years of night shifts, 12 years of call lights and bed checks and watching people at the most vulnerable moments of their lives. 12 years of learning that death has a rhythm, a pattern, a way of announcing itself before it arrives. I've learned to read the signs. The change in breathing, the mottled skin, the way the eyes go distant, like they're seeing something the rest of us can't. I've sat with hundreds of people as they made that final transition, held their hands, whispered reassurances, told them it was okay to let go. I thought I understood death, thought I knew its face, thought nothing about it could surprise me anymore. I was wrong. Some things don't follow the rules. Some deaths aren't natural. And some things wear death like a mask to hide what they really are. My name is Denise Kowalski. I work at Shady Pines Care Center in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, or I did, until last October. Population 8,000, one Walmart that closes at 10 p.m., two churches that sit across the street from each other like they're having a staring contest, a diner that's been serving the same meatloaf since 1972, and a nursing home that's been operating since 1953. 70 years of births and deaths, 70 years of families bringing their parents and grandparents to live out their final days. 70 years of people like me working the night shift, watching over those who can no longer watch over themselves. It's the kind of place where nothing ever changes. Same routines, same faces, same beige walls and fluorescent lights, and the constant smell of disinfectant trying to cover something worse. The squeak of rubber-soled shoes on linoleum, the hum of oxygen machines, the soft murmur of televisions playing to empty rooms. I've worked there for 9 years. Started when my mother got sick and I needed something close to home. Something that would let me check on her during breaks. Something that paid enough to cover her medications. Stayed because leaving felt like giving up. On the people I'd come to care about. On the routines that gave my life structure. On the faces that had become as familiar as my own family. The residents become family after a while. You learn their stories, their quirks, their fears. You learn which ones need their water at exactly 6 p.m. or they won't sleep. Which ones need the TV on all night because the silence scares them. Which ones need you to hold their hand during storms because they still remember the tornado that took their childhood home. You learn everything about them. And then, eventually, you learn how they die. The wandering started in October, right after the first frost. I remember because I'd been complaining about the heater in my car, about how I had to sit there for 10 minutes every morning, waiting for the windows to defrost, about how the cold made my joints ache. Normal October things, normal complaints, nothing that prepared me for what was coming. I noticed it first with Mr. Hensley, room 112, 87 years old, former coal miner who spent 40 years going down into the dark and coming back up again. His lungs were shot from the dust. His hands were gnarled from the work. But his mind had been the real casualty. Dementia had taken most of his memories, but he still knew my face, still called me sweetheart when I brought his morning meds, still told me the same story about meeting his wife at a church social in 1959, how she was wearing a blue dress, how she laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny, how he knew from that first moment that he was going to marry her, every single day, the same story, word for word, like a recording playing on loop. It used to bother me, the repetition, but somewhere along the way, I started to find it comforting. Proof that even when the mind forgets everything else, it remembers love. Mr. Hensley was a fall risk. That meant he had an alarm on his bed, a small sensor that detected when weight was removed from the mattress. If he tried to get up without help, the alarm would sound at the nurse's station, a loud, insistent beeping that could wake the dead, or at least wake whoever was supposed to be watching the monitors. It went off maybe twice a week, usually around 2 a.m. when he'd forget where he was and try to go to work, try to get dressed, try to find his lunch pail, try to clock in for a shift that ended 30 years ago. Normal stuff for dementia patients. Sad, but normal. Heartbreaking, but expected. But that October, the alarm started going off every night, 2 a.m., like clockwork. I'd rush to his room, expecting to find him halfway out of bed, confused and scared. Instead, I'd find him standing at the window, perfectly still, staring out at the parking lot, not confused and not scared, just watching. "Mr. Hensley, are you okay?" The first time it happened, I touched his shoulder gently. He didn't react, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge me at all, just kept staring. "Mr. Hensley, let's get you back to bed." I guided him toward the bed. He moved like he was sleepwalking. No resistance, no awareness, just following. I documented it. That's what we do. Any change in behavior gets written down. Resident found standing at window at 0200 hours, appeared disoriented, redirected to bed without incident. Standard note, standard language, nothing to worry about. But then it happened again the next night, and the next, and the next. Same time, same windows, same blank stare. I mentioned it to the day shift nurse. "Patricia, been there 20 years, seen everything twice." "Sundowning," she said without looking up from her paperwork. "But it's not sundown, it's 2 a.m. "Night downing then, same thing. Dementia patients get confused at night, you know that. It's just, he's so precise about it. Exactly 2 a.m. every night." Patricia shrugged. "Bodies have rhythms, even confused ones. Just keep documenting and make sure he doesn't fall." So I kept documenting, and Mr. Hensley kept standing at his window at 2 a.m., and then so did the others. It started with Mrs. Patterson in room 108, then Mr. Keller in 115, then Mrs. Abernathy in 122. One by one, the residents on my wing started waking up at 2 a.m., getting out of bed, standing at their windows, staring. By the end of October, I had 11 residents doing the same thing. Same time, same behavior, same blank expressions, 11 bed alarms going off within minutes of each other. A cascade of beeping that started at 1:58 and didn't stop until 2:15. 11 confused patients standing at windows that faced the same direction. East, toward the old cemetery behind the property. I made a chart, couldn't help myself. Years of nursing documentation had trained me to track patterns, to look for correlations, to find the thread that connected symptoms to causes. Room 108, Mrs. Patterson, started October 8th. Room 112, Mr. Hensley, started October 3rd. Room 115, Mr. Keller, started October 10th. Room 118, Mrs. Dunbar, started October 12th. Room 122, Mrs. Abernathy, started October 14th, and on and on. 11 residents, all on the east wing, all with windows facing the cemetery, all waking at exactly 2 a.m., all standing, all staring, all silent. The pattern was clear. It was spreading, one resident at a time, moving down the hall like a virus, like an infection, like something passing from room to room, marking each person it touched. I tried to tell the day staff, tried to explain that something was wrong, that this wasn't normal confusion, that this wasn't sundowning or night downing or any kind of downing they'd covered in training, that 11 people don't spontaneously develop the same behavior at the same time, that whatever was happening, it was coordinated, deliberate, purposeful. They looked at me like I was the one who needed a bed. "It's flu season," Patricia said, not even looking up from her medication cart. "Everyone's off their routines. They're all standing at the same window, looking at the same direction, at the same time. Coincidence? 11 people, every night for 3 weeks?" She finally looked at me. Her expression was somewhere between pity and annoyance. "Honey, you've been doing nights too long. It starts to mess with your head, makes you see patterns that aren't there. But take some PTO, get some rest. Things will look different in the daylight." But here's the part that still keeps me up. The part I never told Patricia. The part I never told anyone until now. The part that made me understand I wasn't seeing patterns that weren't there. I was seeing something that didn't want to be seen. One night, I decided to look, to see what they were all staring at, to understand what could possibly be out there that drew 11 confused dementia patients to their windows at exactly the same time every night. I stood behind Mrs. Patterson at 2 a.m. Her room smelled like lavender. She kept a sachet in her dresser drawer, said it reminded her of her mother's garden. I positioned myself just behind her shoulder, careful not to startle her. Not that she would have noticed. She was gone, not confused, not disoriented, just gone. Her body was there, but whatever made her Mrs. Patterson had stepped out for the night. I followed her gaze out the window. At first, I saw nothing, just the parking lot. Mostly empty at this hour. My car, the charge nurse's minivan, a few vehicles belonging to the skeleton night crew, the streetlight casting orange pools on the asphalt, moths circling the light like tiny satellites, the chain-link fence that separated our property from the cemetery. Old municipal cemetery. Been there since the 1800s. Most of the graves had been there longer than the nursing home. The gravestones beyond, barely visible in the darkness, crooked from decades of frost heave. Names worn smooth by time and weather, normal, empty, nothing. And then I saw it move. Something in the cemetery, between the headstones, a shape. Human-sized, human-shaped, walking between the graves, slowly, deliberately, like someone out for a midnight stroll, like someone who had all the time in the world, like someone who wasn't in a hurry because they knew exactly where they were going. I blinked, looked again. It was gone. I told myself I imagined it, told myself the night shift was getting to me, told myself Patricia was right about working too many nights, told myself I was seeing things that weren't there. That's what happens when you spend too long in the dark. Your brain starts filling in the blanks, creating patterns where none exist, seeing monsters and shadows. But the next night, I looked again. Couldn't help it. The curiosity was too strong. The need to know was overwhelming, and it was there. Closer this time, not in the cemetery, at the fence, standing right at the chain link, fingers curled through the gaps, facing the building, facing the windows, facing the residents who stood there staring at it, facing me. I couldn't see its face. The streetlight was behind it, turning it into nothing but a silhouette, a black shape cut out of the orange glow. No features, no expression, just a form, a presence. But I could feel it looking at me, looking through me, seeing something inside me that I didn't know was there, counting something, measuring something, waiting for something. I stepped back from the window. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to run, to get out of that room, to get out of that building, to get as far away from that fence as possible. But the residents didn't move, didn't react, just kept staring, like they were having a conversation I couldn't hear, like they understood something I couldn't comprehend. "What is it?" I whispered. Mrs. Patterson didn't answer, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge me at all. But her lips moved, just slightly, just enough for me to see in the reflection of the window. She was mouthing something, the same words over and over. Soon, soon, soon. I quit the next week, walked into the administrator's office on Monday morning and handed in my resignation. She tried to talk me out of it, said I was one of their best CNAs, said they'd match any offer from another facility, said they needed me, especially with flu season coming. I just shook my head, told them I'd found a job closer to home, told them my mother needed more help than I could give while working nights, told them anything except the truth. The truth is, I couldn't stay in that building another night, couldn't watch those residents stand at their windows, couldn't see that figure at the fence getting closer every night, couldn't hear Mrs. Patterson mouthing soon over and over until the sun came up, couldn't feel that presence watching me, learning me, waiting for me. I moved to Pittsburgh, got a job at UPMC. Day shift only, 8 to 4, home before dark, no more nights, no more windows facing east, no more graveyards, no more figures at fences. I tried to forget, tried to convince myself it was stress, sleep deprivation, the inevitable burnout that comes from watching too many people die. I almost succeeded, but here's the thing. I still check the obituaries from Clearfield. Every Sunday, I pull up the Clearfield Progress website and scan through the death notices. Look for names I recognize, look for faces I cared for, look for proof that what happened at Shady Pines wasn't just in my head. Mr. Hensley died 3 weeks after I left. November 2nd. Peacefully in his sleep. Mrs. Patterson a week after that. November 9th, same cause. Mr. Keller, November 11th, Mrs. Abernathy, November 15th, one by one, all of them, all the ones who stood at the windows, all the ones who stared at the fence, all the ones who mouthed soon to something I couldn't see. 11 residents, 11 deaths, all within 6 weeks of each other, all listed as natural causes, all recorded as died peacefully in sleep. But I know better. I know what was waiting for them, what they'd been staring at all those nights, what had been watching them, calling to them, promising them soon. And sometimes, late at night, when the insomnia gets bad and the memories won't stop, I find myself standing at my apartment window, facing east, watching the street below, watching the cemetery 3 blocks away, watching for movement in the darkness. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I can feel it looking back. And I'm starting to understand what soon means. If you work night shift at a nursing home, if your patients start waking up at the same time every night, if they stand at their windows and stare at something you can't see, don't look. Don't try to understand. Just get out. Because some things are patient and they never stop waiting. I'm recording this because someone needs to know. If you're hearing this, it means I finally got the courage to share what happened. What I did, what I let happen, what I keep doing, even now, even knowing what it costs. Because some debts can't be paid off, some bargains can't be broken, and some choices mark you forever. My name is Michael Torres. I was a hospice worker for 7 years. Some people don't understand what that means. They think it's the same as being a nurse, the same as working in a hospital. But it's not. Hospice is about one thing: death. We don't cure people. We don't save them. We make them comfortable while they wait to die. We manage their pain. We help their families say goodbye. We sit with them in the dark hours when the fear gets too loud to ignore. In that time, I helped over 200 people die. 200 souls making their final transition, 200 last breaths, 200 moments when everything a person was becomes everything a person was. I held their hands. I adjusted their morphine drips, watching the numbers on the monitors slowly decrease. I called their families when the time was close, spoke the words no one ever wants to hear. It won't be long now. You should come if you want to say goodbye. They're comfortable. They're not in pain. I did everything right, everything by the book, everything the way I was trained, everything except once. His name was Harold Dawson, 89 years old, lung cancer, stage 4, metastatic. The kind of cancer that doesn't negotiate, the kind that spreads to the bones and the brain and everywhere else until there's nothing left to spread to. Terminal. He'd been given 2 weeks when I first met him. The doctor said it could be sooner, said the cancer was aggressive, said he might not make it through the month. That was in March. By May, he was still alive, still breathing, still fighting, still refusing to go. Harold lived alone in a farmhouse outside Knoxville, Tennessee, a white clapboard structure that had been standing since the Civil War, peeling paint, sagging porch, windows that rattled when the wind blew, the kind of house that had stories buried in its walls. His wife had died 15 years earlier. Breast cancer. He had held her hand at the end, same as I would hold his. His son had died in a car accident in the 90s. Drunk driver, wrong place, wrong time. He had no other family, no friends who still visited, no one who called. Just me, 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, checking his vitals, managing his pain, watching him not die. You ever wonder why I'm still here? He asked me that one evening in late April. The sun was setting outside his bedroom window. Orange light spilling across the worn hardwood floors, dust motes floating in the air like tiny stars. His voice was like sandpaper on gravel. Every word cost him. Every breath was a battle. The oxygen concentrator hummed in the corner, feeding him air through plastic tubes. Some people hold on longer than others, I said. Standard answer. Professional? Detached. The kind of thing they teach you to say in training. Don't give false hope. Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't pretend to understand what you can't possibly understand. That's not what I mean. He coughed, wet and deep, blood on his lips. I wiped it away with a tissue. Disposed of it in the biohazard bag. Checked his oxygen levels, 91%. Low, but stable. I should have died months ago, he said. The doctor said 2 weeks. That was almost 3 months ago. The body can surprise us. It's not my body keeping me alive. I paused, looked at him more closely. His eyes were clear, lucid, not the glazed look of someone lost in delusions, not the confusion of someone whose brain was being starved of oxygen. He knew exactly what he was saying. I made an arrangement, he said. What kind of arrangement? The kind that keeps me breathing. The kind that gives me time I didn't earn. The kind that has to be paid back eventually. I didn't think much of it at the time. Terminal patients say strange things. The medications make them confused. The pain makes them desperate. The fear makes them reach for anything that offers comfort. They talk about deals and bargains and promises they've made, usually to God, sometimes to the devil, sometimes to dead relatives who appear in their dreams. It doesn't mean anything. Just the mind trying to make sense of the senseless, trying to find order in chaos, trying to believe that death isn't random and meaningless. But Harold wasn't confused, wasn't medicated into oblivion, wasn't scared. He was lucid, sharper than most people half his age. And he wanted to tell me something he'd been carrying for 30 years, something he couldn't take to his grave. 30 years ago, he said, I found something on this property. Found what? Something that shouldn't exist, something old, older than this house, older than this country, maybe older than people. I nodded, kept my face neutral. Let him talk. It lives under the barn, in the root cellar. Been there since before my grandfather bought this land. What is it? Don't know. Don't think it has a name. But it talks, and it listens, and it makes deals. He told me he'd discovered it when he was 59. His wife was dying. Cancer, same as him now. The doctor said she had weeks. Harold was desperate. He'd have done anything to save her. So when he heard the voice from the root cellar, when it offered him a deal, he took it. It gave her 15 more years, Harold said. In exchange for what? His eyes met mine, ancient, tired, full of something I couldn't name. In exchange for finding it new arrangements, new deals, new people who needed something badly enough to pay the price. What price? He didn't answer. Over the next few weeks, Harold told me everything, how the thing in the cellar fed on desperation, how it offered people exactly what they wanted most, how it always collected, eventually, how he'd spent 30 years bringing people to it, people with terminal diagnoses, people with dying children, people who'd lost everything and had nothing left to lose. He'd been its recruiter, its salesman, its servant. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm ready to pay what I owe. What do you owe? Everything. Everyone. Every minute of borrowed time has to be paid back. That's the arrangement. He grabbed my wrist. His grip was stronger than it should have been. But it needs someone to take my place, someone to bring it new deals, new desperation, new souls. I should have left, should have called my supervisor, should have had him transferred to a facility where professionals could manage his delusions. But I didn't, because part of me wanted to see, wanted to know if any of it was true. He took me to the barn that night. The barn was old, older than the house, red paint fading to rust, boards warped and weathered, the kind of structure that should have collapsed decades ago but somehow kept standing. Harold moved slowly. IV pole dragging behind him, oxygen tank weighing him down, but he was determined, more energy than I'd seen from him in months. Down here, he said, pointing to a pile of hay in the corner. There's nothing there. Help me move it. It took us 20 minutes to clear the hay. Underneath was a trap door, iron ring set into old wood. The wood was blackened, like it had been burned, like someone had tried to destroy it and failed. Harold pulled the ring. The door swung open with a groan. A smell rose up, earth and metal and something else, something old, something wrong. Wooden stairs led down into darkness. You first, Harold said. You're the one who brought me here. It wants to meet you. I'm just the introduction. I should have left, should have walked away, Should have called my supervisor and told them Harold was having a psychiatric episode. But I didn't, because part of me wanted to see, wanted to know if any of it was true, wanted to believe that there was something beyond the science I'd built my career around, something that could save the people I couldn't, something that could save my mother. I went down the stairs. The root cellar was cold, colder than it should have been in May, colder than the air above, colder than anywhere I'd ever been, the kind of cold that doesn't come from temperature, the kind that comes from absence, from something that devours warmth. The air tasted like metal and rot, like old blood and older things. My flashlight flickered, steadied, flickered again. The beam seemed shorter than it should be, like the darkness was eating the light, digesting it, and then I heard it. A voice, coming from everywhere and nowhere, from the walls and the floor and the inside of my skull. Low, patient, like stone grinding against stone, like mountains moving in slow motion, like something that had all the time in the world and knew it. You brought someone new, Harold. I couldn't see what was speaking. The darkness was too complete, too thick, too hungry, like it had weight, like it was pressing against me from all sides, like it was trying to get inside me through my skin. My flashlight beam seemed to shrink, to pull back toward me, like the light itself was afraid. "This is Michael," Harold said. His voice sounded different down here, smaller, more distant, like the darkness was swallowing his words before they could reach me. "He's desperate." "I'm not," I started. "Your mother," the voice said. I froze. The words hit me like a physical blow. 53 years old, diagnosed last month, glioblastoma, stage 4, inoperable. The tumor is in her temporal lobe, wrapped around blood vessels that can't be touched. Doctors give her 6 months, maybe less. I hadn't told anyone about my mother, not my coworkers, not my friends, not even my sister, who lived 3 states away and wouldn't understand anyway. No one. I'd barely processed it myself, barely accepted that the woman who raised me, who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my homework and held me when my heart got broken for the first time, that woman was dying, and there was nothing I could do about it. "How do you know that?" I whispered. "I know everything about you, Michael Torres. I know your fears, your hopes, your regrets. I know the guilt you carry about not visiting her more often, about choosing this job over Sunday dinners, about all the phone calls you meant to make but didn't." The voice paused. "I know you would do anything to save her." "I can give her 20 years, the voice continued. 30 if you're generous with what you bring me." "What do you want?" "The same thing I always want. The same thing I've always wanted, since before your grandfather's grandfather was born. People like you. People who need something badly enough to pay any price. Bring them to me, and your mother lives." "How many?" "As many as you can. The more you bring, the more time she gets. 1 soul buys a year. 10 souls buy a decade. The math is simple. The choice is yours." I should have said no. Should have run up those stairs and never looked back. Should have called the police or a priest or anyone who might know what to do. Should have done anything except what I did. And if I refuse? The darkness seemed to shift, to lean closer. "Then your mother dies in 6 months, in pain, confused, forgetting your name before the end, forgetting she ever had a son, forgetting everything that made her who she was." A pause, and you live with that, forever, knowing you could have saved her, knowing you chose not to. "How many?" The words were out before I could stop them. "As many as you can. The more you bring, the more time she gets." Harold died that night, right there in the cellar. His body just collapsed, like whatever had been keeping him alive finally let go. I watched the darkness swallow him, watched him sink into the floor like it was water, watched until there was nothing left but the smell of earth and something older. I drove home, told myself it was a dream, a hallucination, a breakdown caused by too many deathbeds and not enough sleep. But my mother called the next morning. The doctors had run new scans. The tumor had shrunk by half, inexplicably, miraculously. "They're saying it might be treatable now," she said, crying. "They're saying I might be okay." That was 3 years ago. My mother is still alive, still healthy, still calling me every Sunday to tell me about her garden and her neighbors and the stray cat she's adopted. She named the cat Hope. She doesn't know how fitting that name is, doesn't know what I did for her, what I keep doing. And me? I've brought 14 people to the cellar. 14 desperate souls who wanted something badly enough to make a deal. A father with a daughter on life support. A woman whose husband had early onset Alzheimer's. A young man whose little brother needed a kidney. A grandmother who couldn't stand the thought of missing her granddaughter's wedding. All of them desperate, all of them willing to pay any price. All of them given exactly what they asked for. I tell myself, I'm helping them, giving them what they need, saving their children, curing their cancers, fixing their broken lives. The thing in the cellar always delivers, always keeps its promises. The daughter woke up. The husband remembered. The kidney appeared. The grandmother danced at the wedding. But I know the truth. I know what's waiting for them. I know what they're really paying. I know the price comes due eventually. Every borrowed minute has to be returned. Every miracle has a cost. Every deal comes with fine print that can't be read until it's too late. I know what I've become. The thing in the cellar is patient. It doesn't rush, doesn't push, doesn't threaten. It just waits. Waits for people to get desperate enough. Waits for them to want something badly enough. Waits for someone like me to bring them down those stairs. And then it makes its offer. Reasonable, fair, almost kind. It gives them exactly what they want. And it takes something they don't know they have. I'm recording this because I can't stop. Because every time I try to walk away, I think about my mother, about the tumor coming back, about losing the only family I have left, about being alone in that darkness with no one to hold my hand. And the thing in the cellar knows. It always knows. It can taste my fear, my desperation, my love, all the things that make me human, all the things that make me weak. Sometimes I wonder if Harold felt the same way. If he started out trying to save someone he loved. If he became what he was because he couldn't bear the alternative. I wonder if there's a line. A point where you've crossed too far to come back. A moment when you stop being the person who made a deal and become part of the deal itself. I think I'm getting close to that line. I can feel it. If someone offers to help you when you're at your lowest, if they promise to fix what's broken, if they ask you to follow them somewhere dark and quiet, don't, because the price is never what you think. And by the time you understand what you're paying, it's already too late. I found the photo in the break room, wedged behind the vending machine, covered in dust. I was only there because I'd dropped a quarter, watched it roll under the machine, got down on my hands and knees to fish it out. And that's when I saw the corner of something. Paper, old paper, yellowed with age. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. A group photo, black and white, faded around the edges. A dozen people standing in front of a building I recognized. Greystone, the main entrance. The Gothic arches and iron gates. Staff uniforms from decades past. Nurse caps and starched white dresses. Nothing unusual. Then I saw myself in the background, standing in a doorway, wearing my work scrubs. The same scrubs I was wearing right now. The photo was dated in the corner, handwritten, neat cursive. May 1987. I was born in 1995. I was 8 years old in May of 1987, except I wasn't. I wasn't anything in 1987. I didn't exist. My name is Destiny Williams. I'm a psychiatric technician at Greystone State Hospital in upstate New York. Been there 18 months. Started right out of community college, needed a job, needed health insurance, needed something that would look good on applications when I eventually went back for my bachelor's. It's the kind of job that sounds scarier than it is. When you tell people you work at a psychiatric hospital, they imagine straitjackets and padded rooms, screaming patients, and dangerous psychotics. Movies have done a number on how people think about mental health. The reality is much more mundane. Mostly paperwork, documentation, making sure everyone takes their meds, charting behaviors, attending treatment meetings, occasionally restraining someone having a crisis, rarely. Less than you'd think. Most of my patients are just people. People with schizophrenia who hear voices that terrify them. People with bipolar disorder cycling through highs and lows. People with depression so deep they forgot how to function. People who need help, who need medication, who need someone to remind them that they're not broken. Just different, just struggling, just human. It's hard work, but it's predictable. Same shifts, same routines, same faces, or at least it was, until I found the photo. Greystone opened in 1871, one of the oldest state psychiatric facilities still operating in the country. There was a time when it held over 1,000 patients, when the wards were full and the waiting lists were long, when people were sent here not because they were dangerous, but because their families didn't know what else to do with them. That time is over. Now we have 112 beds, state budget cuts, modern medication, community-based treatment, all the things that should make places like this obsolete. But somehow Greystone keeps going. The main building is this massive Gothic structure that looks like it belongs in a horror movie. Gray stone walls 3 feet thick, barred windows that haven't been opened in decades, long corridors that echo with every footstep. The original architects believed in the healing power of nature, surrounded the whole complex with gardens and walking paths, built the wards with high ceilings and natural light. But somewhere along the way, that vision got lost. Now it's just a building, old and tired and waiting for something. The kind of place where you expect to see ghosts around every corner. The kind of place where history seeps from the walls. The kind of place that doesn't let go of its secrets easily. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in brain chemistry, trauma responses, untreated mental illness manifesting as visions and voices. I believe in science. I've seen what happens when people don't get help. I've seen the delusions and the hallucinations and the breaks from reality. I know how the mind can create things that aren't there. But I can't explain the photo. Can't explain how I'm in a picture taken 8 years before I was born. Can't explain why I'm standing in the doorway of room 14, the room that's been closed since 1986, the room no one ever talks about. I started asking questions, carefully, casually, not wanting to seem crazy, not wanting to end up on the other side of the locked doors. What's the deal with room 14? Angela, one of the senior nurses, just shook her head. Storage, been closed for years. Why? Building code violations, foundation issues, something like that. But the rest of the building is fine, she shrugged. That wing is old, different foundation, different problems. Has anyone been in there recently? She looked at me strange, like I'd asked something I shouldn't have. Why would anyone go in there? Just curious. Don't be. But here's the thing. I'd been in room 14. I remembered it. Sort of. Like a dream you can't quite hold on to. Like a memory that belongs to someone else but somehow ended up in your head. I remembered the heavy door. Oak, I think. Old growth. Solid. The smell of old paper and dust. The window that looked out over the courtyard. Barred like all the others. But the bars on this one were different. Older. Hand-forged. The feeling that I wasn't alone. The certainty that something was watching me from the corner. I went back to that photo, studied it, used my phone to zoom in on every detail. It was a group shot. Staff photo, maybe. 13 people in outdated scrubs and nurse caps standing in front of the main entrance, smiling at the camera. Their names weren't listed, just the date and location. And there I was, in the background, barely visible through the doorway of room 14, looking directly at the camera, not smiling, just watching. I showed the photo to my supervisor, asked if she recognized anyone. She pointed to each face, naming them one by one. That's Nurse Crawford. She retired in '92, and that's Dr. Phillips. He passed away. Oh, must have been around 2005. And this one. She went through all 13. She didn't mention me. Didn't seem to see me at all. Who's that in the doorway? I asked. She squinted, leaned closer, adjusted her glasses. I don't see anyone. Right there, in the doorway, behind Dr. Phillips. Honey, there's no one there, just shadows. But I was there. I could see myself. Clear as day. I started keeping a journal, writing down everything, every question I asked, every answer I got, every strange look, every avoided topic. Every time I walked past room 14 and felt that pull, that urge to open the door, to go inside, to remember what I'd forgotten, the journal saved me. Because a week after I found the photo, I woke up in room 14. I have no memory of getting there, no memory of unlocking the door, no memory of walking down the corridor in the middle of the night. But there I was, sitting on the floor, in the dark, with no idea how long I'd been there. The room was empty, completely empty, no furniture, no storage, nothing but dust and cobwebs and the faint smell of something chemical. I ran, back to the nurse's station, back to the light and the noise and the people, and no one remembered me leaving. No one had seen me walk down the corridor. No one had heard me unlock the door. As far as anyone knew, I'd been at my station all night. But my journal said otherwise. My journal said I'd been gone for 3 hours. My journal said I'd written an entry at 1 a.m. about hearing footsteps outside room 14. An entry I didn't remember writing. I kept going back. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop myself. Every night, I'd find myself at that door, hand on the knob, ready to go in. And every time, something was waiting for me inside. I can't describe it properly. Can't explain what it looked like or how it moved or why it made me feel like I was falling apart from the inside. I just know that it was there, in the corner, watching me, learning me, becoming me. The senior staff started treating me differently, keeping their distance, looking at me like they were trying to remember something, like they recognized me from somewhere, but couldn't place where. "Have we met before?" Angela asked one day. "I've worked here 18 months. She frowned. Right. I know, I just forget sometimes." That's when I understood. The thing in room 14 doesn't take your life. It takes your presence, your place in people's memories. It erases you slowly, one person at a time, until you become like that photo. Visible but unseen, there but forgotten. I found more photos. Decades of staff pictures going back to the 40s. And in every single one, I was there, in the doorway of room 14. Same pose, same expression, same me. The twist came 3 months ago. When I found the patient records, I wasn't supposed to be in the archives. That section was restricted. Old files, sensitive information, patients from decades past. But I needed to know, needed to understand, needed to find something that would make sense of what was happening to me. Room 14 used to be a patient room. Until 1986. Until a patient was admitted who changed everything. Diagnosed with severe dissociative disorder, claiming she was from the future, claiming she worked at the hospital, claiming she kept waking up in a room she couldn't escape. The doctors thought she was delusional. Textbook case. Grandiose fantasies mixed with paranoid ideation. They medicated her, restrained her, tried everything they knew. Nothing worked. She kept insisting she was a psychiatric technician, kept giving detailed descriptions of treatments that didn't exist yet, kept asking why no one recognized her. She died in 1987, in room 14. Natural causes. Heart stopped in the middle of the night. No warning, no explanation. She was 23 years old. Her name was Destiny Williams. I'm 29 now. I'll be 30 in March. But here's the part I can't stop thinking about. The part that keeps me up at night. The part that makes me question everything I thought I knew about time and space and identity. The patient records list her date of birth, March 15th, 1995. The same day I was born, the same year I was born. The exact same date, down to the hospital where she claimed to have been delivered. I don't know what I am anymore, a person or a ghost, a memory or a premonition, something caught in a loop that started before I was born and won't end after I die. Am I the original, the copy, the echo? The thing in room 14 isn't a monster, it's a door. A door that opens in both directions, past and future, here and there, now and then. A door that lets you slip between what was and what will be. A door that traps you in the space between. I found more photos after that. Went through every archive I could access, every staff directory, every group picture going back to the 40s. Spent hours in the records room, pulling boxes from dusty shelves, flipping through albums with crumbling spines, squinting at faded faces and yellowed photographs, and in every single one. There I was, in the doorway of room 14. Same pose, same expression, same me, watching, waiting, trapped. 1947, staff Christmas party. I'm in the background, standing in the doorway while everyone else gathers around a decorated tree. 1953, groundbreaking ceremony for the new wing. I'm visible through a window, looking out at the crowd. 1961, retirement party for Dr. Morrison. I'm at the edge of the frame, half hidden by a curtain. 1978, group photo of the night shift staff. I'm in the doorway of room 14, clear as day. 1982, anniversary celebration, 50 years of Greystone. I'm there. Same doorway, same expression, 70 years of photographs, 70 years of me. Standing in that doorway, never aging, never changing, never escaping. I tried to show the photos to people, to prove I wasn't crazy, to prove something impossible was happening. But they couldn't see me. No one could see me in those photographs. Not Angela, not my supervisor, not even the archivist who'd worked at Greystone for 40 years. They looked right at me and saw nothing. Just shadows. Just artifacts. Just their eyes playing tricks. I was becoming invisible, fading from the world, one memory at a time. And room 14 was the door through which I was disappearing. I still work at Greystone. I don't know how to leave. Don't know if leaving is even possible. Every time I try, I find myself back in the parking lot the next morning. Keys in hand, no memory of driving, no memory of deciding to stay. But if you ever find yourself at a psychiatric hospital, if you see a door that's always closed, if someone asks if you've met before when you know you haven't, don't investigate, don't ask questions, don't try to understand. Because some doors aren't meant to be opened, and some rooms never let you leave.